Billiken fans, welcome back. It's Zach Miller and Peter Hale. It's the Midtown Madness Podcast. Before we get going, thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below, as well as the bell icon to get notified of whenever we drop episodes. It's season 4, and once again, the Midtown Madness Podcast is brought to you by Two Men in a Garden Salsa. Billiken fans, on this episode, we got a change of pace. We've got a third man to bring in to the pod for this episode to talk Billiken men's basketball. And speaking of changes of pace, Two Men in a Garden's fruit salsas are really just that. They've got hot mango, strawberry, peach. These are amazing salsas, and they're perfect change of pace for that hot summer weather that we are experiencing here in St. Louis right now. If you're looking for these, you may want to head straight to twomeninagarden.com. They can be tough to find in stores, although if you want the OG flavors, you can head right to any local grocery store. But check them out online as well at twomeninagarden.com. You can follow their social media at Two Men Salsa on Instagram and Twitter. I know they have a lot of events coming up. I think that International Pickle Day, the second annual, is coming up at Ballpark Village, but I'll have to check on that. Let's head over to the episode, Pete.
Let's do it.
Billiken fans, I'm excited to introduce our next guest, and to be honest, this one is way, way overdue. He is, I think, I'm just going to say it, he's the longest running Billiken content producer on the World Wide Web. It's Jack Godar of A10 Talk. Jack, I want to, before I kick this over to talking about your fantastic article about the Billiken roster, I got to ask you, where do you stand on the Jason Tatum slew Billiken's tweet?
I mean, I'm honestly fine with it. I don't think they did anything different from what like the Blues did, what the Cardinals did, like pretty much any major sporting team in the city did the same kind of tweet. I think Tatum does, like, he's worked out with the team before. He's come to games. I think it was like Terrence Hargrow's mom posted about like how excited she was for Tatum with like pictures of Terrence Hargrow's younger brother with Jason Tatum at the SLU game and stuff like that. So like, it's not like he's around the program all the time, but I think, it's a way of showing that, hey, we have this NBA star that, does have some connection to SLU and still comes by. It'll be interesting to see how involved Tatum stays in the future, because we're kind of getting to the end of the time where it's like these were his buddies, these are guys he plays with, like playing pickup and like running with in the summer and stuff like that. But I mean, I think, and like you guys tweet about, like he, would join his mom in class, he'd be on the sidelines as a toddler. Like the ties go way back. I think, that they didn't want to post something, that's fine. They posted something, that's fine. I don't really get the criticism about it, but I don't think it's the hugest deal overall.
Yeah, I think it's like I said, I think, well, to that point, not in not one part of your answer, and it's not, I'm not criticizing your answer. I'm saying you didn't specifically mention that Jason Tatum's dad played for the Billikens, and I wonder how many people don't actually make that connection.
Yeah. But I mean, I think, yeah, there's that. And I think it's also just that, like, he does come off as a Billiken fan, like maybe not necessarily like a, diehard like we are, but I think it's clear that he like roots for the team and likes to see him doing well. I think SLU has more of a connection to him than a lot of programs have to NBA players that they would, publicize. So I'm fine with it. But it's, I think it shows that SLU's in a good place that we're talking about this instead of like, are we going to get Malcolm Dandridge? So, I'm glad this is a debate we're having.
But Zach, is that your main issue with the tweet. Just that Slew just said, I thought it was fine,
Oh, it's a totally fine tweet.
But that they didn't add the context of like who his dad is, and then how his mom, got her law degree at SLU, and that he has these connections to the school.
I think they could. I honestly, like, I have no problem with the tweet. I think it's fine. I just wish Jason Tatum wasn't a Celtic, or represented the city of Boston in any way, shape, or form. But no, I thought it was a fine tweet. I think it's totally applicable. But again, I sit here with all of that context, and I don't think it matters. Like, I think the one way they could have probably done it is seeing him with his dad in a SLU jersey as a toddler, something like that, added as a second picture. I mean, I just think it could have been better. I think it was a perfectly fine tweet, other than I don't like Boston, and that's my personal feelings, and that's it. That's really the only dislike I had for it.
I'm not entirely surprised by some of the negative reaction to it. Just number one, because there's always going to be non-SLU fans who want to jump in there and make whatever comments they can about him not actually being a Billiken. But number two, because people always find some sort of negative spin on everything that happens within sports now, and that can be kind of irritating. But I think from the SLU fans who don't like this one, it seems to be just the fact that he didn't pick SLU, despite all these connections, despite being St. Louis through and through, having St. Louis tattoos, really like being connected to the city, didn't go to SLU. I think some important context is that it was that brief window where it was Cruz after the Majerus recruits left. So it was the 2 seasons he had after that and before Ford, where Tatum actually would have been at SLU, which was kind of a really less than ideal time. I'll put it that way. I think had Ford been there, he may have very well landed him. Or earlier on, if Majerus had that team still going along, that may have been the kind of difference between a second round exit and making it to a second or third weekend if a guy like Tatum shows up. So that, I think that context is important there. But there are just people, like, as soon as, like, who are dyed in the wool SLU fans, and as soon as they don't pick SLU, they're dead to me. It doesn't matter if they're.
Would you call them a tool?
I wouldn't, but a lot of people would. A lot of SLU fans would. So a lot of people have that perspective, I guess, is what I'm saying, and I don't, because I think, like, he is a top tier NBA superstar, now an NBA champion, and any time a guy like that is around your program in any context whatsoever, if he's going to games, if he's working out there, he obviously has a personal relationship on the team with Larry Hughes, given that their dads were so close. I just think anytime you can have a guy like that around your program, it's just a positive. You can make an argument whether it's a big deal or not, but it's just a positive. And I don't understand the negativity for that reason, because having him around, to anyone at SLU who plays basketball, that's a huge deal. The women's team also, did a little post about this and stuff, and they don't have the same personal connection as the men's team does with Larry Hughes and with his dad having played for them. It's a really big deal to have a star of that caliber in any way around your program.
And I do think you're right. And I think to kind of connect that to Jack's point, in that, I mean, the guys that were most recently through this program are friends with Jason Tatum. And, so you do have that as well, where, there are a lot of people besides the most obvious Boston Celtic fans within the athletic department. There are people that had a vested interest in Jason Tatum winning an NBA championship. So I do get that. I do.
I'd honestly, I'd go even further. I'm gonna lay out a hypothetical for you guys. Say, Travis Ford is still the coach of St. Louis University basketball, and the NBA champions this year was the Memphis Grizzlies. I'd say go for it and make a congratulations Marcus Smart tweet. I wouldn't do a tweet for anyone on the Grizzlies coaching staff, but I'd say, congratulations Marcus Smart. Put a picture of him, like, with Ford with the team or something like that, because he's going to games. Like, if you can get yourself tied to an NBA player, you make one tweet, That's it. It's fine.
That's so I'm always kind of thinking a little bit of recruiting all the time at like how you're, I know Zach has like kind of always the ultimate like fan perspective, but I'm always thinking of like in terms of how the program is presenting itself, right? A lot of times I'm in addition to that, I'm kind of thinking about recruiting, and the reason I would support that as well is because like that's a recruiting pitch. Like I'm the head coach here and I put this guy into the NBA and he won a championship or whatever. Like that's always going to be part of your recruiting pitch. And I don't oppose it for that reason, even though, yeah, Smart is obviously not a Billiken, but there is a
Yeah.
relationship there. There's an important tie.
Well, and it's that they're around the team. And so if you're a recruit, you're seeing this and it's like, okay, this guy's around the team. Like,
Sure.
I think there's a fairly good chance if you play 4 years at St. Louis University, you're gonna meet Jason Tatum a time or two. And like,
Yeah.
the people who are criticizing that tweet, um, none of them are priority recruits for SLU or.
Can you imagine?
They've exhausted their eligibility.
Imagine Luke Walsh. What is this tweet? This is terrible.
No, I mean, like, yeah, but every single recruit on the planet, if given the chance to meet Jason Tatum, would jump at that.
Yeah.
Is it the ultimate decision maker where they end up? Probably not, but it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, it's not going to do any harm, and that's all the thing. Post whatever you want as long as it doesn't hurt. And overall, SLU's had a great social media game. It's cool to have a guy around the program as much as Tatum has been. So
So
Yeah.
I want to switch gears to, your involvement with A10 Talk, because as far as I know, you've been doing this since before you could drive.
no, junior year of college, I was actually abroad in Ireland, and
really?
I was like, yeah,
It feels longer than that, man.
Well, no, I'm just, it was 2017. I was like, I'm staying up for these games till like 3, 4 a.m. We weren't a good team at the time. I was like, I need to get something out of this. So I like just reached out to them. I was like, hey, I noticed I'm a SLU rider. Happy to do it. And I've done it ever since. But
Are you the only SLU representative for A10 Talk?
yeah, we've had others throughout the year, but I've kind of been the most consistent. It's not like I'm like writing every week, but I always, write a few articles, tweet out the game, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
So what was kind of the catalyst for getting, besides your love of Kellen Thames, what was the catalyst for kind of putting this article together, and what was kind of your main point, I guess?
I've been meaning to write sort of something, just looking at, the team and synthesizing all of it. Cause like, I think we've had a lot of good articles, like looking into like the players themselves and like, kind of going into practice and stuff like that in the Post-Dispatch. Like I think Stu's done a great job of that. But where you don't really have room for a type of newspaper like this is something where it's just like, okay, this is the team we've got. Let's go through every player. Like, it's not like, because like what I wound up with was, nearly 2,600 words. Like that's a lot of space. And it's not even like I'm going super in depth into every single player. It just takes up a lot of space. But, the nice kind of thing about what I'm able to do with A10 Talk is that I have it's just online. I have the space. I have the ability to go, into that. And so, it kind of came together organically as I was writing like something about the team. It was like, okay, this is the best way to do it. Just go through every single player, write about it, especially with 10 newcomers. It just felt like the right thing to do.
So I want to back up and just make sure people know what we're talking about. And that's Jack's article, Magic Brewing in Midtown, a deep dive into SLU's new look roster. And that was published on a10talk.com on June 17th. So I appreciate the player by player approach to this, Jack, but when you're thinking about how to kind of organize this, what's your thought process there? Like, are you covering, is it crucial to cover the guys who are going to be playing the most first, or do you want to introduce the newcomers? I mean, what do you think the best approach is to get this out to SLU fans?
I mean, I'd love to say I put a lot of thought into to how I did that, but really the exercise was just sort of like figuring out, okay, what is doing some speculation, what is the rotation going to be like? Who might the starters be? And it just sort of wound up as I was writing, I was like, okay, just going player by player is probably the best way to go about that. So it just sort of unfolded that way as I was writing. I think it was like I wrote in the first couple paragraphs and then I wrote the last paragraph and I was like, it just like kind of clicked like, okay, I'll just go player by player. So that's, what I did.
Pete, I gotta ask you, but did you feel cheated when it said Magic Brewing in Midtown that this wasn't an article about a new brewery near the arena?
Midtown already has a glut of riches in terms of the brewing within walking distance from campus. So I think they're doing just fine in that department. And if there was a new brewery there, I certainly would be interested in it. But you can only visit so many on a trip back to SLU.
Uh, Jack, I want to start and jump just right into it. Gibson Jimerson is the first on this list. And I gotta ask you, were you surprised at how long it took Gibson Jimerson to decide to return? Because I, from Jump Street, thought it was a no-brainer.
I honestly I wasn't that surprised. I think, 6 years in one place is a lot, in general. And he has such a specific elite skill set that pretty much every school in the country would want him. So like you're gonna have to take time and like listen to that and consider what do you really want to do. Gibson seems like a smart guy who is he's not he takes a lot of time to consider what he's going to do and like think about what his actions are, and he seems to think about things for more than just like where am I going to get the biggest paycheck or what's the most prestigious thing I can do. Like he considers a lot of factors. So I think it makes a lot of sense that he came back to SLU, stay where he's familiar, where he has, a lot of connections and now is going to have a really exciting style of play. But I think he probably had a lot of very tempting offers, whether, it's chances to go closer to home or, chances to play for some really top teams. Like I think he was linked to like UConn at one point. So like
It was, yeah.
but yeah, I would take time to consider him. I'm glad he's back. But it's not surprising me that it took him time to figure it out. And, he tested the market. It's a smart thing to do in this era.
One of the things that you touch on with Jimerson, and I completely agree with, because Zach and I talked about this a little bit a few weeks ago, was efficiency from three. A lot of people are talking about, well, now that he's in this Shirts offense, it's just going to be bombs away and he's going to have a ton of looks. And that might be true, but I'm a lot more interested in his efficiency than his volume this year. And a lot of that is because the guy you talk about right after him, Isaiah Swope, is someone who can really he was, I think, among the tops in the country last year in his 3-point attempts. And he's the guy who can create his shot in a number of ways. And I think you're probably with us in assuming he's going to be starting alongside Jimerson.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for Swope. And I think, with Gibson, one of the things we didn't get to see enough of, was him playing alongside Javonte Perkins. And I think Swope, they're obviously very different players. It's about an 8-inch difference, maybe more between the two. But like Swope has a similar ability to like, get hot in a hurry and really fill it up without necessarily being ball dominant. And I think Gibson being alongside a player like that who can create his own shot, and he doesn't necessarily have that 3-level reliance where he has to go put the ball on the floor as much, is really going to help him. Like he's so good moving off the ball, and he's really going to get a lot of chances to find space. I think he'll also going to show off more of a passing ability in Shirts' offense. They're just he showed some flashes the past 2 years, where he's more willing to look for the pass and showed some good vision. I think in this offense, he's going to get to really move the ball around more in addition to finding more open shots. So I think he's going to be able to show a more complete game just from having not a reduced role, but just having a different role within the offense than pure first option go-to guy.
Where do you see Swope scoring the most from in that 3 level? I mean, obviously, I know Shirts really, you really kind of only have to be a 2 level scorer, except in the desperation, I think, in Shirts' offense. But where do you see Swope? Do you see Swope more getting points at the rim or from the three?
I more from the three. Like he can get to the rim. He's hopefully, he'll really have his full athleticism back. But I mean, Shirt's offense is what it is, and you get open looks at three, you take it. I think Swope's going to have a lot of open looks in three. I think it's interesting. Like you guys have both heard, there's been a couple of like radio appearances or different things where Shirts has talked about how end of games at Indiana State, he'd have Swope as the shooter and then run the pick and roll with Conwell and Avila. So just sort of, I can kind of imagine where you have Swope sort of like spotting up, and then maybe this, if say he has a breakout year, Josiah Dotzler running a pick and roll, Gibson sort of cutting around and getting open, and I can see Swope sort of just like spotting up and find himself with open threes from that.
What I thought, well, sorry, Pete, I had something and I know I'm going to forget it if I don't bring it up now. On the third spot, you brought up Kobe Johnson, and myself, and I don't know about the rest of Billiken, kind of the Billiken fans out there. I don't know anything about Kobe Johnson. As much as we've probably covered him on this show, I have no idea what he like. Why are you putting him third? I guess is my question. I don't mean that in any sort of like questioning way. I mean that just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think what comes to mind for me with Kobe Johnson, and this is not a bad thing at all. I think he's a little bit of a guard version of Javon Pickett.
That's gonna raise alarm bells in a lot of Billiken fans.
It's I think a lot of with Pickett it was fit. He was a very good basketball player, but this is a guy who's played 90 games in the for a Big 12 team. I was a starter last year. It wasn't a very good team, but he's been going up against a lot of tough competition for 3 years. He's 6'4", 210. Very very long wingspan. He's strong. He can defend. He can run a little bit of point. He can get to the hoop. He didn't shoot well from three last year, but he shot very well from the free throw line. So I could see him being a pretty efficient three-point shooter on low volume. And I think kind of the vision there is just a guy who connects a lot of pieces. I think the term connector has been increasingly popular in basketball, and it usually refers to, just kind of like a wing who does all the little things. But I think, Kobe can be a connector piece from the backcourt, guard the best perimeter player, keep the ball moving, get to the rim. He can do a lot of little things. And I think the vision there is just someone who, keeps things moving, and just a solid, reliable player in the backcourt. I think, he has a skill set that's going to get him a lot of minutes in the A10. So
You mentioned him a couple minutes ago, but as someone who could be a potential breakout candidate, but he's somebody who last year at Creighton only played 77 minutes, didn't have a big role, and jumped after his freshman year. Why is it that you think Josiah Dotzler might be a candidate for a real breakout?
I think, part of it is just he's got a great pedigree. I mean, it's tough to break into Creighton as a freshman. They're a really good team. I heard good things about Creighton liked him as a player.
They love him in Omaha.
Yeah, I heard they wanted to keep him. He wanted to go and get more playing time. And if you're a guy that Creighton wants to keep and keep developing, there's probably a lot there. Indiana State staff recruited him very, very hard out of high school. Dude, he's pretty athletic, 6'3", great size. He'd be a threat out of the pick and roll. I think he's a decent shooter. I wish there was more high school tape of him out of Omaha, but he won 2 state championships, won a Peach Jam with Mocan. And there's just a lot where, if you look at like Ryan Conwell's stats, he didn't do much at USF his freshman year, and looked like a potential NBA player undershirt sophomore year. And so you can kind of see the parallels there. And like, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I based on how the staff scouts and identifies players, I think you can kind of see, the lane for a Josiah Dotzler breakout. And so I think he's someone who could really surprise someone. Also, I think it'll be a pretty easy cultural transition going from Creighton to SLU. Midwestern Jesuit universities, there's a fair amount of, you get Creighton rep people coming down here, St. Lucie High people going up to Creighton, for example. Like, I think there's a lot lining up where it could be a really good season for Dotzler, and him having 3 years of eligibility is big too.
With Dotzler, do you think when you talked about Dotzler and Conwell and the potential to break out where they underperformed the year before and looked like NBA players next, how much of that, where does that come from, do you think, in the Shirts offense? Is that more from getting open shots, open looks at the rim, open threes, or is that more kind of just being in the flow and finding the right guys to all kind of put it together?
I mean, I think some of it's offense. I think some of it's just opportunity too. I mean, going down a level, you're going to get more chances to play. You're going to get more minutes, and you're going to get more freedom. And I think that really helped with Conwell. Again, it's hard to like definitively predict what Dotzler is going to do, but he spent a year practicing, with the Elite Eight team, kind of soaking all of that up, doing well enough in these practices that they, were impressed by him and wanted to keep him. And so I think he'll have a good chance. And I think it also helps. Like, he has a skill set that we don't really have in the backcourt. There's not really he's probably the closest thing to a pure point guard in the backcourt. Like, I think, Swope can run point a little, but he's better, when he's focused as a scorer. Kobe Johnson can run things fairly reliably, but he's not as dynamic as Dotzler. Like, Dotzler is probably the most like dynamic, like pick and roll threat type guy. And so having that opportunity with the ball in his hands, I think he'll be able to show, a lot more than he was able to at Creighton, where, like, again, you're playing with a lot of really great, really smart players in that system. And they were an old team too, like a lot of veterans. So, he got a year to learn in one of the best learning environments. And now he's with a staff that, really wanted him out of high school, really wanted him in the portal, and landed him. So I think it's a really great situation for him. And I think he could bring something to the team that's really could be needed.
We've already talked about Jimerson. People who listen to this show know as much about him as any player who's played for SLU lately. And we kind of know, if you know anything at all about Shirts and his system, how he's going to fit into that. If you watched Indiana State at all last year, you kind of know Swope and Avila and what they're going to do. But I want to talk about the two other returners from SLU, and that's Larry Hughes and Kellen Thames, and how you think they're going to fit into this system and what their opportunities might be.
Yeah, I'll start with Larry because I don't know. I feel like Larry got a lot of criticism that he didn't necessarily deserve last year because he'd spent the entire prior offseason being like propped up as like the savior for like next season. Like, oh, Larry's gonna be all defense, so Larry's gonna, be this like just have this unbelievable season. And it really wasn't fair to him that all the expectations that were put on him. And I don't know, it's interesting that narrative seemed to come from with the team. That felt a little unfair to him. And so like we were talking about a kid who, 3-star recruit, but he walked on. He played like 10 minutes a game as a freshman, and then they're just like talking about him having this big jump like it was expected. So he had, he's 6'4", looks, you guys have been to games. He looks taller than 6'4" when you're like in the arena, stuff like that. Long arms, he can defend, and he can shoot high volume 36% from three. Like that's a skill set that any team in the A10 would kill to have. And probably some like high major teams would have been interested in him if he went in the portal, because you don't have guys with his length and shooting ability. He can play a little bit of point guard. He can defend, 1 through 3. Like, I think he's going to have a good year under Shirts. I think he's not going to be asked to do much outside of what he's capable of. And I think he's very good at the things he's capable of. Biggest thing for him is he's got to show more defensive discipline. And it's so hard to, figure out what was a product of just like last year, things just being so like the momentum was dead. And like, it's hard to perform in a, situation like that.
No, I agree with that. And I've said it so many times. I don't know if I should say it again, but like, it's hard to analyze and kind of get anything out of last season when you talk about these players individually, because it felt like they were put in such bad positions. I mean, Larry Hughes should have taken a step forward last year that I think people expected this season. Like I'm going to be quick to back the fans too, in that the expectations he should have probably met, but he wasn't necessarily put in the right position to succeed. I think he was probably thrust a little bit further into the fire than he probably needed to be, and I think that's where the disconnect was.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, I don't know if you.
I agree with that. And I think it applies to Thames too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I feel like it kind of took time to figure out like exactly what we have in Thames last year, which I kind of understand. Like, I mean, he had like the ankle issues.
He got hit by the car
freshman year. Yeah, he's still, he's still growing. He's still growing into his body. Like, I think there are times last year where we saw Kellen Thames not being sure what Kellen Thames is capable of necessarily. But I've mentioned it a time or 12 that I think he's primed for a breakout. And I really think that he's probably the closest this team has to like a Jason Kent type archetype. He's not like, the post defender, rebounder that Kent is, but he has that capability of being able to make smart cuts off the ball, attack the glass. He can finish above the rim. There's really, he's one of the best athletes in the Latin 10. He's a guy where, people came in freshman year thinking he could handle the point, which was wrong, but he was a, high school point guard. He's able to make pretty good reads off the ball. I wish we could see him handle the ball more in transition, because he is some of his Pattonville highlights. He's fun running the point in transition. But I think he has a really unique skill set, and he can do a lot of things well. And I think, Shirts is gonna find a way. He's another guy who's got to just play with more discipline on defense. But you have his size, his length, his athleticism. It's if he can play with discipline, he's going to be a very good defender, and he's going to make some impact plays on offense too.
I thought that, Kellen Thames was kind of like, not necessarily in terms of body type, but a Fred Thatch, in which you could say, go out and handle this athlete, and they may be, 6 inches taller than him, but Thames with his size, length, and, he could make up for that, that size difference.
Yeah. Well, he looks bigger too. And like the pictures they've had of practice and like the highlights, like,
I was mad he cut his hair though.
Hey, if it makes him more aerodynamic, I'll take it,
I don't know. The pullback, that was pretty, I thought that felt arrow, man.
I feel that. Yeah. But yeah, one thing with Thames is like he was efficient last year too. He was 58% from the field and 36% from three on low volume. And like, he doesn't, to compare, like Jason Kent, 64 from the field, 37, like the way they finish on offense is pretty comparable. Again, he needs to improve his rebound, needs to get better at, just stuff like boxing guys out, and little things like that. But in terms of just like sheer athleticism, and then he has good basketball instincts. Like there's a lot to work with there.
I do want, before I let Pete ask the next question, I do want to know where do you stand on kind of comparing 1-to-1? Because we've done that a lot. I mean, I think we're all guilty of looking at Schertz's roster, and we're looking at the roster we have and saying, okay, where do we plug and play? How cautious do you think SLU fans should be in kind of their expectations of this being kind of a 1-to-1 transition?
Do you mean like comparing individual players?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I don't know if that was an insane question or not.
no. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it. I think that's a really good question because I think the sheriffs and the staff intentionally did not try to get 1-for-1 replacements. Like, I talked about like Kellen Thames being the closest thing to Jason Kent. Like that's not a 1-to-1 comparison. They're not the same player by any means. And then you look at the guys who Shirts actually brought in. They're with AJ Case and Kalani. They're both a lot more interior based players. And it's a different skill set. I think they're going for a little bit more oomph in the interior to adjust to the increased physicality of the Atlantic 10. Because I mean, Casey's 6'9", 220. They talk about it as a small ball 5 possibly, but that's more skill set than size. And Anya's 6'8", 220. Had a block and a steal a game. Like these are guys who are physical and they can compete on the interior with bigger teams. And like Kent was a little bit he could go inside, like he was a great rebounder, but he's a little bit more of a finesse player than these guys who are more interior based. And then there's not really a 1-to-1 replacement for Ryan Connell. I mean, that's hard to do, and it's not like Kobe Johnson is a 1-to-1 for Julian Larry. So I don't think they're trying to recreate last year, and I think that's smart because it's that'd be hard to do. I think they are finding players who they think will fit within what they're trying to do. And I think they're going to adapt the system to the personnel they have. That's the mark of good basketball coaches is that they're not, bending players to their will. They're bending to put players in the best position possible. I think that's really exciting.
We have 3 incoming freshmen. I'm wondering who you think has the best shot to play the most minutes.
I I would probably say McCautry. I really like his game. He's a little similar to Kellen Thames, in that they're both 6'5", 6'6", played point guard in high school. He's long. He's a good athlete. Good pass instincts, can handle the ball, can get to the hoop. And he does it all in like a size that, you can't really teach. So I think Warwick just could earn some playing time too, just because he does so many little things right. He's, very undersized, but like the way, like this is not a comparison of their playing styles, but like you look at his tapes, it almost reminds you of like Dwayne Evans, the way he'll like face up at like the top of the key, and then next thing you know, he's somehow gotten into his post move and just like hits like a little hook shot. Like he has a little bit of that to his game. He can pass, he can make a lot of smart plays, good rebounder. I don't know with Bakar, he could end up getting the most playing time out of all the freshmen because he's 6'11", can shoot and handle the ball, or he could end up getting the least just because he's not physically ready yet. But if I had to pick one who I thought was the most likely to get the most minutes, I go with McCautry because I think he's the most physically ready, and I think he is the most dynamic. He has the most dynamic skill set.
Yeah, I think I probably agree with that.
Let's head into the front court. We did get a little bit into it with my detour into the 1-to-1 discussion, but I think we got to start off with Cream, Larry Nerd, Rob Wave, as you put in there. What's your favorite Robbie Avila nickname before you talk a little bit about the big man?
I kind of like Larry Nerd, just 'cause it had the ISU reference, like that felt the most topical. Uh, but I don't know. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the one that sticks, and so that's the one I'll end up using most just because it has recognition. But I tend to just call him like Robbie or Avila more often than anything.
This it's so weird to have a guy like Robbie Avila on SLU's campus and people genuinely just talking about SLU because we have a guy that everybody knows.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like it was, I finally didn't have to explain like what SLU was like people, because like they're like, oh yeah, that's where, he's going. So like being able to like explain like, oh, like this isn't, just some like random thing that only I care about. Well, okay, only I, and then there's a 2L who was a manager on the basketball team. So we it'd be us two talking about SLU and everyone else thinking we're insane normally, but yeah, but it's just it's nice having that like literally national like recognizability between like, a lot of my friends are, up in Massachusetts, and like, they think I'm insane for like my SLU side. It was like, okay, they know like, Avila's coming, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, like, oh, that's SLU, like that's Godar's team, like stuff like that. Like even they have that recognition. So it's literally like a nationwide relevance for SLU, and it's, you got to win the games and everything, but it's, kind of fun to enjoy over the off season.
We know he's a starter. We know the offense is built around him. I am really more curious about the next two guys, and that's AJ Casey and Kalu Anya, and who you think might emerge out of those two, or maybe it's both of them, to really play, possibly a starting role and a big, contribution on this team.
Yeah, I mean, I really like both of their games, honestly. I think AJ Casey really didn't get a chance to show much of what he's capable of. He was at Miami. They kind of just, put him at the five, not just at a five, but like playing him at the five in a way where he didn't really get to show much of his skill set. And, that's not really the type of player he is. If you look at his high school highlights, he's a guy who's like getting passing lanes, he's showing off his quickness. He's, handling the ball around the perimeter, maybe a little bit more than you like, but like he likes to show off the more skilled aspect of his game. And I think he's going to be able to do that more at SLU. And I think the hope is that that'll, unlock the rest of his game, because he's, at one point he was a top 25 player in his recruiting class. And he ended up being, in like the 70s or 80s, but he's just an elite athlete at 6'9", 220. Most schools in they tend to not really had a guy like that. I'd say that for SLU, but we just coming off Francis Okoro, who's 6'9", 230 and an athletic freak. But, like maybe we're a little spoiled, but there's not a lot of guys who can move their feet like him, handle the ball a little bit, shoot a little bit. Well, he could shoot in high school, and he wasn't afraid to shoot at Miami. He was 1 for 22 from deep. So hopefully he makes a little bit more. But if he gets his confidence and really shows out and earns himself a starting spot, that's great for SLU, because we're talking about, a guy who's one of the most talented players in his class, who knows Avila really well. They went to middle school, they played AAU together. And that's awesome for the front court. And then Anya is going to be good. I think he's going to be a fan favorite. He really gets after it. He's going to be the best rebounder on the team. He's listed at 6'8". He might be a little bit smaller, just from what I can tell. I'm very curious to see what he measures in at SLU. But I mean, Hassan French was like 6'5", really, and he was effective. And he could be a little bit like that. He's very athletic. he's a good passer. He had some games where he had like 7 or 8 assists. He also had a couple of games where he had 7 or 8 turnovers. Um, I'm curious to see what his jump shot's like because he shot 27% from deep, but is also a 50% free throw shooter. If he can knock down open threes, that's huge for SLU. But I think he's going to be a really steady presence. He can play at 4 or 5. He might be able to handle and pass enough to even, play three. Like he's quick enough too. Like you could possibly see a lineup of like Casey, Anya, and Avila if, we really want to get crazy. So I think both of them are really excited. I think both of them are going to play over 20 minutes a game. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun for the staff being able to cycle through different looks in the front court with them. Hopefully, Kellen Thames can play some four too. I think he's going to be strong enough to guard fours. So I think there's a lot of really interesting looks. And then we can't forget about Killian Brockhoff too. He might earn some playing time.
I wanted to. I'm excited about Kalu on you because I think what I've kind of noticed is a cottage industry in the transfer portal where you can find some really good impact players out of the Ivy League. I think there's a ton of underrated talent out there that you can, entice with not only some NIL but also just plain scholarship money. So I don't know about you guys.
Yeah. Also, shout out Anya for being from Worcester. Because I went to Holy Cross in Worcester, so it's fun to see SLU having a guy
You
from
went to
that
Holy
area.
Cross? I
Yeah,
had no idea.
yeah. No, I didn't go to SLU or anything.
No, I'm giving you shit. You're a
Okay.
big Holy Cross guy on Twitter.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
you're
one day we're gonna
only,
win 10 games.
the only Holy Cross guy on Twitter.
Yeah. They do have a message board though. It's great. It is. I think the average age of the message board is older than SLU's.
That's impossible.
It is. It's pretty crazy. It's fun, but it's it's quite the message board.
Where's the I think Killian Brockhoff is he really being just kind of forgotten here because he was the last guy to sign?
Well, I mean, he didn't get he doesn't look like much if you just look at the stats. He is a little similar to Stefan Bussell, where he was injured coming into the season. It took him a while to get acclimated and just didn't get that much playing time. But his highlights from Germany are really interesting. So, I think worst case, he's a fourth big man who, if there's a lot of foul trouble, he can come in and play. But he he's 6'9", and the thing that really sticks out of his tape is that he's got a little sauce to his game. He's got a little swagger in how he passes. He even did one of these in college. I forget what UC school. I think it was UCSB, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
but right. He likes throwing the no look passes in transition. He had a couple like step back threes, like kind of thing where it's like 6'9" center. You don't see them doing stuff like that often, and like that's kind of they're the type of things that made Avila go viral. Like just having being able to like have these really slick passes, nice footwork, and just like stuff you don't expect from a guy his size. And so I think he has a lot of potential where if he's healthy and if he's comfortable, I think he could surprise some folks. Biggest thing is, I think he needs to show that he can guard down the lineup, because if he can't guard fours, there's just not enough playing time outside of when Avila's in foul trouble. That rarely happens. So
about the same size as Willie Reed, full 5 pounds heavier, and he's same like at the same age.
yeah, slightly different weight distribution than Willie Reed, I reckon, but
I don't think he had any weight. Like I don't believe that he was 220.
Yeah. Well, Willie, I think, was on the taller side of 6'9". Like SLU not lying about the height is interesting because he was always listed around 6'11" once he left SLU. And I mean he looked it. I would reckon Willie was at least 6'10" in shoes. I can't really tell how tall Brockhoff is, but he's they're fun. It's fun highlights on YouTube if you look at him passing. There's one where it's just I forget what account it is, but like a 6-minute video and it's like broken up. And like when, he committed, I'd just go and look at the passing part over and over again because you just don't see big men pass like that outside of our starting center. So, but I've had 2 months and I still haven't been able to work out a good Zimmerman Telegram joke between the two of them. So,
yeah, well, I mean, Zach, I don't know what else you have on this, but
No,
I
on any of the rest of these players, because I need to get his opinion on whether Dylan Warwick looks like Mitch Hedberg or not.
Dylan Warlick.
He does.
Warlick.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, he's got that hair. But yeah, no, I think we covered everybody here. And it's just a really, I think overall, if we're looking at this at a high level, and Zach and I got into this a little bit recently, after Warlick signed a couple weeks ago, but it's just a well thought out, well constructed roster. There's a lot of upside here. There are definitely reasons where you're like, you look at some of the 3-point shooting numbers of guys transferring from other schools and think like, okay, like there are things you can point at and reasons why these guys weren't gobbled up by the Power Fives or like SLU was able to get them. But I think the right personnel in the right system, there's a lot of upside in this roster, and I really like the way it's constructed. And I don't know, man. I think there's just a lot of reasons for optimism here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's hard. You see a lot of staffs these days, and when like their new staff in the portal, they go instantly for like win now or like most talent available. And this is a very talented squad, but it's not. But it was assembled very, like you mentioned, very thoughtfully. And that's impressive. Like we're talking about a group of guys who had to come together. Shirts had to put together a staff. They all had to move to St. Louis, get acclimated to new surroundings while just like scouting, recruiting, doing all this stuff nonstop. And they managed to put a full team together before the end of May. It's a team that fits together on paper. You can see it gives you a lot of different looks. There's a lot of versatility. You mentioned like it's not, I think people expected Shirts to put together a team of 3-point snipers, but he's never really recruited like that. And it's a team where everybody on the squad can pass and can dribble. And so like we talk, pass, dribble, shoot. I think it's become clear that like the two things Shirts values most is the passing and the dribbling part. And then he's like, we can help them improve the shooting part later.
We can get them more wide open.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that also kind of goes to the confidence the staff has, which is a good thing too, and kind of refreshing. But I think there's a lot of room for excitement. I think it's, they've put together one of the more unique squads out of the new staff to the portal, and they're not just going along with the trends, like what people think they're hot. They have a clear vision, and they're just going and executing that vision. So, the biggest questions are, how does the team gel together? Will they be able to play together and win from the outset? Can they take care of the non-conference? But if they take care of business in the non-conference, there's, this team will be competing for an at-large bid. And, that's pretty cool to just having the chance to compete for that right off the bat with a new coach. That's rare, but it's a testament to what Shirts and the staff has done this offseason.
Well, Jack, I wanted to ask you. I mean, if you have some time, you want to hang with us for the rest of the men's basketball.
Yeah, I can hang.
All right. One of the more wholesome aspects of the kind of further evolution of the college sports landscape that we kind of learned about recently is the conferences are seeking out naming rights. Like there's a lot of things out there that really suck and are really just like really off-putting, I think, to a lot of fans. But and one of I think the least offensive of them is naming rights for conferences.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can see how like fans could get annoyed with it because like the big Allstate sounds inherently wrong.
It was the worst way to start. It's the worst way to kick off that, like, hey, fans, guess what's coming? We're going to have conference naming rights. Big all-state conference is the worst way to kick that off. Like, you have to market it better than that, right, Pete?
Yeah, you do. And is that's the Big 12, right? Who was talking about that one? Okay, so you have Conference USA on the other hand, who's been publicly open about their talks with Globe Life. So it could be called Globe Life Conference USA or just the Globe Life Conference, which honestly is a former Conference USA affiliate, SLU, and none of the teams that were in our Conference USA, we were in the initial Conference USA. None of those teams are still in it. It might as well be called something else. So if they want to call it Globe Life, honestly, I kind of like that better than Conference USA. So I don't care there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's fine. I think anything that schools can get money that, help them adapt to the new era of college sports without relinquishing any control. I think that's good and they should take advantage of it. I don't even care. Like, put like I don't know, Emo's pizza badge on SLU uniforms, whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just like not get involved with private equity, which, there are some, industries and areas that private equity, is a good answer.
Movie pass.
But like college sports is just not like it's hard to see how the goals of college sports genuinely fit in with partnering with private equity in a successful way. And so like that's got to be like the red flag thing. And like stuff like naming rights and like stuff like that, that's completely harmless in comparison. Like maybe it takes away a little bit from like the pageantry of college sports, but it helps, if it helps the schools continue to fund these programs, continue to fund non-revenue sports too, then, I think it's a good thing.
Pete, should we run down how should we do this? Should we run down some names because we asked Twitter for who should sponsor the A10, wrong answers only. I think how should we have Jack judge these in some way?
Yeah.
Just a quick
we'll do that.
1 out of 10 real fast. Like fast,
All right.
like first instinct, Pete. I'll let you go first.
All right. For the Atlantic 10, A1, like A1 steak sauce.
7.5.
I don't mind that one because visually you can make the A1 and A10 a different color, right? It's like if those two are red and the zero is black, it works. Verbally it doesn't work as much, but visually I like it.
I can see it. I like it.
Atlantic Records.
Atlantic Records, Atlantic 10. Gonna give that a 7.
Okay. I wasn't a huge fan of it. The Atlantic.
Like the magazine.
That's good. It's 9. We'd be the most intellectual conference.
Yes.
This next one might be my favorite, Pete.
Yeah, Aldi.
Ooh. That's a good one. Aldi, yeah, that fits. That's another 9. I like it.
It's cheap. Just like the A10. We're a budget conference. I disavow this one. I just want everybody to know. I want whoever might be the CEO of this company to know that I disavow this one. It's Boeing.
Ooh. We'll go with the 7 there, but that'd be.
Is this the right fit if they're trying to rehab their image? I gotta wonder.
Yeah. No, this is.
Why would they need to rehab their image, Pete?
No idea. But here's another brand that is in no need of an image boost, and that's Chili's.
Ooh, Chili's would be good. I think a lot of A10 Twitter would be very excited about the Chili's Atlantic 10 conference, or perhaps taking a page from the big Allstate, the Atlantic Chili's conference.
I could get with that.
Yes.
I think that would be very popular with A10 Twitter. So I like that one a lot. I'll get that a 9 too.
This is I think this one I'm not sure if this was Pete's burner account that posted
This
this
was not
one.
me.
Skyline Chili.
Man, if we still had Xavier, then yeah, I like Skyline. We when my girlfriend and I went to Cincinnati, we went to Skyline because it was the first time in Cincinnati, and
I think Dayton
good.
is the only market in the conference with Skyline Chili, and given that it's headquartered in Cincinnati, I just don't see this one, Zach.
I don't understand this
Although
next
it
one.
would annoy Dayton fans, so that would be a plus.
That is.
Yes, that's
I
true.
don't understand this next one, Pete. Can someone explain it to me?
Yeah, I think the guy was just wanting to name it after himself.
It was
Tony Patelli's Inc.
no, I don't. But I don't think he was the one who tweeted it.
Someone else did.
Yeah.
Oh, he's that Twitter guy. I don't really follow him though. I don't know much about him. I'll give it a 3.
I don't know what Tamarack Marketplace in Beckley, West Virginia is, but someone suggested it. This next one though is pretty damn good, I think, Pete.
Yeah, I looked up the Tamarack Marketplace. It appears to just be a shopping center off the highway in Beckley.
Okay, that's actually
that's a
great.
10.
That's
a 10.
actually great. I love it.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
a
it.
10.
Yeah,
Atlantic 10 is the Tamarack Market
it's like
in Beckley, Virginia of conferences. So that
like
works.
it's like a Holiday World, or not Holiday World, what's one of those big touristy places off, like when you drive through to Kansas City,
Merrimack Caverns or something.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So the next one, I mean, given it that it's the Atlantic 10, named after our eastern seaboard, we have Ocean Gate.
It's the 1-year anniversary. What missing today?
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Timely.
Yeah, but yeah, they don't. I don't think they have anybody who can pay the rights anymore.
You mentioned private equity. GameStop was that not necessarily private equity, but the finance industry. Fake trades potentially. I don't know. I got nothing on this one. I thought I had it. I don't. Pete, I'll let you go with the next one.
GameStop at least has the right color scheme.
It does.
The next one is Bell Atlantic, which is now has been folded into what is known as Verizon. If it were still called Bell Atlantic, I kind of like that one.
Mm-hmm. That'd be old school.
Yeah, Bell Atlantic 10. That'd be good.
Silicon Valley Bank. I don't get the reference.
That was like a bank that crashed.
Yeah. That's
so it's like an Enron type kind of.
Yeah, like big run on cash deposits with a bunch of like startup types freaking out.
Like in It's a Wonderful Life.
Sure.
Yeah.
RC. This is kind of close to my heart because the Edward Jones Dome or whatever it's called now is they sell RC Cola.
Oh yeah, because it's like the big conferences are like Coke and Pepsi, and we're RC Cola. I get it.
I like it. Pete.
Yeah. Next we've got Red Lobster.
No, that's private equity.
Eastern Seaboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Atlantic.
Kmart.
Kmart.
Budget.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I looked up Kmart recently because I don't know, it came up in conversation at work, and I think they have something like 12 stores left, period, everywhere.
It was a real tragedy when the Kmart in New York City down on the Astor Street subway station on 456 line closed. That was wonderful. Just like literally a Kmart in a subway station. I miss it.
I got a New York trivia question for you before you leave. You got to remind me. Big ass fans. Just because who doesn't love swearing?
That'd be good.
Ass is always funny.
Yeah. The one I tweeted, I think this is the only recommendation I tweeted, was OnlyFans should sponsor the A10.
I mean,
no, we would get one of the budget, the offshoots of OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I don't know.
To have our streaming rights could go to OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Don't tempt Chris May to put us behind a paywall.
It would be funny to see how many people get in trouble for their monthly subscription to OnlyFans to stream Atlantic 10 basketball. And then the last one we got was Ace Hardware.
Which
that'd be good. Would we get free popcorn at basketball games?
No,
They'd have to have that.
no, then I want Home Depot because then we can get their hot dogs.
Yeah.
Home Depot dogs. Pete, you mentioned Godar, you mentioned which OnlyFans? Pete, what is your submission here?
Man, I've been thinking about this. I don't have, I think I like the Atlantic or Atlantic Records, like something already, Bell Atlantic, you can't really use anymore. But I couldn't think of another good company with the word Atlantic in it. I don't really have anything good, Zach. I'm sorry.
See, I went with Family Video. I don't know why, but like, I just think it's such like a budget ass place that's still open for whatever reason. I assume money laundering.
No, I actually think it is no longer
no
a brick and mortar store.
Really?
Do they
like
have an
that.
electronic back room
I
now?
think they're online only as of 2022.
Oh no. R.I.P.
Yeah. But they were headquartered in the Midwest. Yeah, Illinois. So
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, I guess our Loyola friends might like that, but I don't know.
Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to comment. Whatever you give us a company, either the wrong answer or the right answer of who you would have sponsor the Atlantic 10. What brand would you not be surprised to see sponsoring the Atlantic 10? Did you guys see the I would ask you, did you guys see this? But we all know you guys saw this. The Chicago White Sox commercial with Robbie Avila for their jersey night. It was in the vein of the This Is Sports Center commercial. What'd you guys think?
I love
that
that.
was fun.
Yeah, I think the great thing there for us is even though SLU is not in that in any way, shape, or form, anyone who's the least bit curious as to who that is going to look it up and figure it out. And it's just another way for him to get more visibility and therefore eventually our program to get more. But it was a fun little ad. Yes, it was a rip off of the This Is Sports Center format, but
everybody's ripped that off for 30 years now. Everybody's ripped that off. I mean,
it's true.
101 ESPN ripped it off with the Billiken at least one time. Yeah. I think Troy Robertson's company has ripped it off last year 3 or 4 times.
My brother did a video with Jason Tatum when he was his journalism teacher in high school. I'll have to share that on our feed. I probably have before, but it's timely now. So yeah, they did the exact same format as well.
Yeah, it's a classic format. I don't blame anyone for doing it. It usually works. It's usually fun. So, I thought this was fun. So, good for Robbie. It's got to be fun. Having your baseball team that you grew up rooting for wanted to do stuff like that with you. So, it's cool to see.
I'm not like, I don't want to say this in like in a skeptical way. I don't know if I totally understand these partnerships, these specific NIL deals with like the pro sports teams. I don't know if you guys know what who's getting what out of it.
I think he's the third college athlete the White Sox chose as kind of like one of their collegiate brand ambassadors. And I don't know what they're calling the program. I guess I could look it up right now, but there were a couple other college athletes that they had signed on to go ahead and, do ads for them and kind of, just be, I guess, pop up in things like this, right? Just to sort of be, very public White Sox fans who have a little bit of a following as college athletes. And Jack, I don't know if your understanding is kind of the same.
Yeah, I think it's college athletes are like generally from the Chicago area or play in Chicago, who are White Sox fans and have good social media followings. So yeah, it's just like, what you do with like influencers or anything
I was just going to drop the I word. No, that makes sense. I guess I just was not like seeing that. There was something there that was blocking me. I guess I didn't get that. But anyway, they're hosting the Southside basketball jersey giveaway. That's what Robbie was promoting. June 29th. It's 1:05 p.m. game versus Rockies. I'm sure there are Billiken fans in Chicago, wink, wink, West Pine Bills, that would be interested in such a giveaway. That is too. That's great. Again, his move to SLU is great for that. It's great for the White Sox.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a rare opportunity for the White Sox to be able to get some fans to show up, even if they're just coming through the gate to grab something free before leaving.
Yeah. Problem is you got to watch White Sox baseball after.
I don't know if us three are in a good spot to like throw stones right now.
Hey, Cardinals got a winning record right now.
If the season ended today, June 18th, as we record this, they would actually be in the playoffs.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the White Sox are 19-54.
Historically bad.
26% winning percentage.
No, you can't win them all. Pete, I want to kind of turn this episode over to you and let you kind of hop in the driver's seat. You did a lot of research on NIL a while ago, and we've never really found a time to drop it into an episode. And so I'll let you kind of take over, and you and Jack can kind of, and I'll pop in wherever, I can't not talk. So, I'll find a place.
So I've wanted to drop this in for a while, but we were trying to get somebody from the Billiken Victory Fund on, and we tried and couldn't break through. So I'm going to go ahead and dump my now, unfortunately a little bit stale notes in here. But last fall, before the season started, I had a chance to speak with Adam Ross of G3 Marketing and Pro Camps. He runs Xavier's NIL effort, which is called Final 2%. And his comments to me were this. He said, for a program like SLU, now keep in mind, this is, about 9 months ago. He said, we should be targeting about $500,000 to $1 million per year. So I think those numbers are now a little bit low. He said at the time, a top player was around 200,000, and it basically goes down in tiers from there. So take this however you want. People at the time were disputing what SLU's NIL budget was at the time. Some said it was kind of lower than that range. Trilly Donovan at the time said it was around 750, but that has been disputed as well. There was also a tweet that outlined a survey of 50 NIL collectives tending to represent, the top half of D1 programs. The A10 ranged from about 200 grand to 1.2 million, with 500,000 as the medium. So a top tier program, and I think this is still about right, is going to be about 3 to 4 million. Some have crept a little higher, I believe. The Big East has typically been more in the 1 to 2 million range, but again, creeping upward. And that's kind of more or less in line with what Troy was saying, like on Kevin Slayton's show and some other appearances at the time, that top transfers might fetch in the high 6-figure range, for example, and top high school players might be more like 3 to 400,000. Now we've heard reports of guys getting up to 2 million, which I think is ridiculous overpayment for a player like Coleman Hawkins, for example, who just got that. So he said, you can't guarantee players money, but once the recruits are there, the idea is to ensure that the funding is there. So you want to kind of be able to back up your word. The key thing to consider, according to him, is what the coach and the athletic director are doing. They're the ones who command the most interest from donors. And they're the ones who have to schmooze, right? In many cases, it's taken kind of a long time to get coaches and ADs to understand this, but it really is essential to these. Once they figure it out, they're the ones who kind of have to drive it too. The capital projects, those arms races are kind of a thing of the recent past. Now it's really all about NIL and that war chest that you've got. It's a mindset change for everyone in college sports, but you have to play the game in order to be competitive in your given sport. So by the way, I've been really focused on men's basketball. If you have an alum, for example, with an interest in another sport, it's a much lower dollar figure, but a few $100,000 could make you an instant blue blood in some of these other sports, like truly, which is something to kind of keep in mind for some of our, soccer, baseball, whatever other alums who have been pretty successful. So circling back to NIL collectives, the day-to-day running of a collective is kind of a hurdle. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of administrative work. What he does as a third party kind of, I think, offers a lot of benefits. They run events with athletes. For athletes to be paid, there have to be qualifying events. They understand the legal compliance stewardship sides of the NIL collective. They also know tax laws. They're not tax deductible like they were initially made out to be. That was always a pipe dream. But what they do is ensure that 90 to 95% of incoming funds go directly to players. Generally, 5% goes to event hard costs. And if you guys know anything about charities and charitable giving, that's a really, really nice efficiency ratio there. In this industry so far, the administrator takes about a 3 to 5% fee. The percentage decreases as the dollars increase. Again, that's pretty low to do, that part and allow the people running your collective to focus on fundraising. So the key is to run minimalist events that don't cost a whole lot, camps, meet and greets like bowling nights, Top Golf, stuff like that, social media posts. So administrators of these collectives, they're not the fundraisers, but they handle all those other functions that allow the actual fundraisers, your coaches, your alums, your NIL boards to go raise money, right? That's the idea. So we weren't able to interview Troy, but from what we've gathered from his events, his comments in other places, the Billiken Victory Fund, it's an LLC. It can collect money on behalf of athletes. So donors can take business deductions if athletes do an ad or make an appearance. The Billiken Exchange is another option. What Troy said they have is a few categories of donors. They have people who give to the general NIL fund and just want the program to succeed. They have businesses looking for a promotion, and then they have donors with specific wants, like supporting a certain player, for example. Recruits now usually have an advocate, like a coach, a relative, somebody like that, if not an agent. And as time has gone on, legal rulings have kind of made for some more gray areas. Coaches had to be in direct contacts with all of this before. Now it's less clear and they're getting more directly involved. Collectives can more or less say what they want. But the Billiken Victory Fund so far believes that getting big fish and corporate donors on board is the key because they don't have the critical mass of alums like power conference state schools do. Schools don't want student athletes to be employees, but again, legal rulings recently are making that kind of a gray area. So revenue sharing may be a way around that, was Troy's last comment that I put down here. And by the way, I'm going to wrap this up with a couple of comments from Travis Ford before.
This is
so he was kind of saying that that NIL agents were getting to him, right? Like he knew that was an issue, and he had NIL agents talking to SLU wanting up to $400,000 just right out of the gate. Most were six figures, and SLU just had to tell a lot of these guys they're out of the running. So I think there's a very quick initial screening process when you're contacting potential transfers, especially now, but also upcoming high school recruits. So that's my notes on NIL, and I know that's a lot to chew on. And I think that the main thing there is that a lot of this is still relevant. It's just the dollar figures themselves have kind of changed. And I'll pause there, Jack, and I want to see if there's anything in that notes dump that you kind of are taking away.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of what you said was pretty spot on. It honestly sounded like, one of those radio bits where the radio guy's like, okay, I'm going to get serious here. We need to talk about it, except for that it was actually like good and well thought out. But no, I think I agree with a lot of what you said. The stuff about SLU, one thing I always think about with SLU is that it's weird because it seems like it was during the Ford era, kind of the default was be like, we have no idea what we're doing with NIL, but then somehow they'd always have enough NIL money to be extremely good at player retention. Like,
yes,
that dichotomy has always confused me. And
I always thought that it had to do I really think it was such an easier sell to be like, to go to somebody and be like, look, we got to keep this player. You know what I mean? You go to Shafitz and you say, I want this guy. He's like, well, you kind of suck right now. So why should I he never said it. Look, I want to rephrase that. Like, it's easier to say, hey, look at Gibson Jimerson. Look at Yuri Collins. They need this much money to stay. We need it. There's emotional attachment. as
Mhm.
opposed to a, hey, can we get 100,000 to give this college kid or this high school kid? I just think it's such an easier sell. I don't know about
Yeah.
if you agree.
No, yeah, I do agree. And I think, I don't know. I wonder if they like that offseason, like they just didn't negotiate enough or something like that. Like, I don't know. Cause like all these kids have ridiculous initial asking prices. But the other thing I think with NIL is that like, SLU doesn't necessarily need to be spending at the level of these power conference programs. All it needs to be spending is at the level of a top A10 program. And there are more good basketball players out there than there are players who are demanding, six figures, who take a ton of money. Like, oh, what it means is that it's shifted much more towards being able to evaluate who is a good player and who is not, who fits, like, and then having the money to get the guys you need and to keep the guys you need. But really, I think the future of NIL at a place like SLU is going to be through player retention, which it has historically done well. And I think we'll see how much of that is SLU having money and how much of that was Travis Ford being able to inspire loyalty among his guys, which he did seem to be extremely good at doing that. Credit to him. But I think, and I think we see it with this SLU roster where they've gone younger guys like Dotzler, they brought in three freshmen. Like, it feels like a big part of the plan for Shirts is developing guys, retaining them, and having a consistent culture. So I think I like how they approached the portal with NIL this year, and I think they're doing it in a way that's going to be sustainable in the future. Like, SLU's never, unless we, get an invite to like the Big East, SLU's never gonna have to spend at the level of even like a DePaul or anything like that. We just have to spend at the level of a Dane and a VCU. And that's very doable with the base that SLU has. And you can get a lot of good players with that type of NIL budget. I've always seen, not just at SLU, but across they attend this off season.
Yeah, so to kind of build on that a little bit, this kind of dovetails with a couple things. Like, yes, number one, player retention has been, I think they've stated it publicly, the number one priority at the Billiken Victory Fund. Getting those guys initially was the bigger problem, right, for Ford. But once he had them, he was good at keeping guys happy. And we really was just the last few years that NIL was a factor there. But even before that, that was a skill of that staff. But this also dovetails with something that was published today by Evan Miyakawa, who does the sort of analytics side of things, and his data so far is showing that roster construction best practices in this era. His three tips are: number one, fill your roster with good basketball players, which kind of sounds like duh, but you do need the highest level of talent possible. Number two, returning players should account for at least 50% of the playing time on your roster. And number three, prioritize recruiting players who will play at least 2 seasons for you. And I think that's true of all but one incoming transfer, which is Kobe Johnson. I think everybody else, Swope as well. But everybody else has 2 or more seasons coming in on our roster. So I think, we kind of we don't have the luxury of being able to get half of our minutes out of returners, but we do kind of check those other boxes there. So I think there kind of is value in, if you believe in Amari McCautry and Kellen Thames and some of the freshmen and maybe some of the younger guys who aren't going to play huge minutes this year, when guys like Swope and Johnson and some of the others move on, you have to believe in those guys enough to retain them, right? And that's not going to be a huge number, but it's going to be something, because there are going to be other schools who are familiar with them and might be able to pluck them away otherwise. So I do think there's probably a lot of sense in continuing to recruit out of high school, prep school, and paying enough to retain those guys before they run off without being developed and brought up within your system. And I think it's important for a guy like Schertz, who, coming from Lincoln Memorial, where he was for 13 years, I think. He redshirted all his freshmen and kept guys there for 5 years. And now he's just trying to keep guys there as long as possible. So retention is doubly important when you've got a system coach.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I've got a split now, but I mean, I think that's really, really well said. And I think, I think this is a great place for Shirts to be able to do all the things that he wants to do and sort of have that freedom to really build a program as opposed to just like win now, win now.
Right.
So I think overall SLU's in a good spot for now. We have the right coach for this era. Right
I
now.
agree.
So
Jack, thank you, man. I appreciate it. This was awesome catching up and talking Billiken hoops and a change of pace for the podcast, and we really appreciate it.
all right, yeah, no, thanks for having me on. It's great talking to you guys. I really enjoyed it.
Great article, man. See ya.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Pete, that was a lot of fun. Different from what I think our listeners are used to, and I hope they enjoy it. I think it's good to bring in someone with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Jack knows his stuff. He's really a great, essential Twitter follow if you're a SLU fan on that particular platform, X, if you call it that. But yeah, he's a good writer. He knows his stuff. He's a big SLU fan. Even though he may be going somewhere else for law school right now, but I appreciate
he's followed the path of Steve Rogers, Billiken sign guy, SLU sign guy. Yeah. He didn't, neither undergrad or grad did he go to SLU.
But now Steve's back at SLU anyway.
That's true. So that's true.
He came home.
Pete, at the outset of the show, I mentioned a fresh perspective, a new perspective. What's also fresh, Pete?
Yeah, Zach, I do. And that would be the salsa offerings at Two Men in a Garden. Pickle offerings too, but I got to tell you, I got a new shipment in. And speaking of fresh, you mentioned these at the top of the show in your intro. Those fruit salsas, as far as I'm concerned, are the taste of summer. The strawberry salsa is the first one I opened from my box that I got this week. And I got to tell you, I looked down and I think half the jar was gone. It was just so nice to have it back in the fridge finally. And I absolutely associate this with summertime. I know this is the case in St. Louis. It's true here in Ohio as well. It's in the mid-high 90s. This week, it feels like it's about 130 outside. Pull a jar of this stuff out of the fridge, snack away. It's the perfect summer snack. Head on over to twomeninagarden.com and stock up on yours today.
All right, Pete, let's head over to, the baseball diamond, sort of. We've had a lot go on, I think, today, even stuff that I think we even forgot to put in the notes. First off, the first news that dropped was that assistant coach Logan Moon is heading to Illinois State to be the hitting coach for the Redbirds.
Yeah, he is. And it doesn't feel like a great thing, Zach, when you are losing an assistant coach to go be an assistant coach at a Valley school. And look, in baseball, it's not like the Valley is a step down or anything.
It's a step up.
Yeah, but it still stings a little bit that an assistant jumps for another assistant job, right?
Sure. And I think it's the second year in a row, I think that someone has jumped.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So, you talk about it being not a good sign. Obviously, the next pin to drop was the leaking that Darin Hendrickson was now the top target of Indiana State.
Yeah, it feels like a little bit of payback for the old basketball.
Turnabout is fair play type thing.
Absolutely, it is, and it's interesting to me, Zach, because a lot of the narrative that we heard out of Indiana State at the time of Shirts coming to SLU to be the new men's basketball coach was that it's kind of a mess over there in transition in terms of their athletic director, president, everything like that. So it's curious to me that, look, they're a very good baseball program. They had a great season this year.
They have much better facilities.
Yeah, although so do most high schools around St. Louis. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know how true it is. When these sort of coaching move things start to leak, you wonder what's true and what's not. But certainly you look at Hendrickson's profile, and there's a lot to like there for an Indiana State program looking to sort of sustain some of its winning.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for a couple of reasons. I think you look at the parallels and the intersections of the Indiana State Athletic Department and the St. Louis University Athletic Department. You've got a guy like Clinkscales over at Indiana State who was fired for quote unquote, at least according to Greg Doyle, who, by the way, Jesus Christ, that guy's had quite the summer already, and it's not even July. Got fired for mismanaging the hosting of a NCAA baseball regional. And then you look over at St. Louis University, who has not put any money into their baseball program from an athletic department level. All the funding has been through the coaching staff and alumni, where, that's the university seems content in a lot of ways for that to be okay. So it is interesting to see where the unappreciated coach or the unsupported coach, because I'll say it differently for sure. I don't know if it's unappreciated as much as it was just they weren't able to fund the program, what was needed to run a program at that level. Whereas SLU does have that money and just has not. And you see a program like Indiana State on the baseball side that does have that kind of funding and those facilities. So it's a very, very, it's an odd dynamic, Pete.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And it doesn't give you the warm fuzzies. Exactly. Because there just are no public signs that might turn around anytime soon. Right.
No.
I mean, I guess you see things like they did a little bit of improvements on the softball field.
Yeah, they did add the
fence, the foul poles.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's been 15. Well, Hendrickson's been here for 17 years. I think May's been here for 18. It's just one of those things where nothing's been done in that time. Nothing, like, again, I've harped on it, but I want to move the goalposts as far in for this athletic department to meet the minimum expectations. And I think that's essentially the lack of ADA accessible seating. And I don't necessarily think it's a requirement, but like for Christ's sake, if we're not inviting everybody to games, how can we judge the amount of people that show up to a game? And now I know, right? You're going to say, really, we're going to fill the place with people in wheelchairs. No, but I think it's a sign that you're not trying. It's a small little, it's the little things. And we talked about the little things so much last year with basketball, and the little things just weren't happening. And I think this is just kind of the kicking the can down the road from basketball to baseball when it comes to just kind of not being present and not being kind of involved or interested in trying to do anything. I mean, you have 15 years, 17 years under Hendrickson, 18 years under May, where you don't have ADA seating. You never get that fixed. There's still no concrete walkway from, the main walkways around that area to the bleachers. So if it's wet outside, if it's rained recently, you got to walk through the grass to get there, to get to the seating. You look at the lack of a press box. I mean, they knew about this in 2010-ish when they put it up and hosted the A10 tournament. They had to put up a makeshift janky press box, which there are pictures on Billikens.com of. So they knew about this since it, they knew that they couldn't host another A10 tournament. You look at, the seating is the bleachers are falling apart. They're literally, I walked and put my hand on something and pulled up and like it disconnected, it's not comfortable to go to games, same kind of vein as the wheelchair accessibility. You're not even making it easy for people to watch these games, including family.
Yeah, and not to mention, you're sitting on those dilapidated bleachers in direct sunlight. Like
Yes.
there is not a square inch of shade anywhere in that.
Or
complex.
wind or cold.
Yeah, right.
I mean, to sit out on
That's
cold.
true. That's true. Early in the baseball season, it's
Like soccer's one thing. It's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Baseball can go. College baseball is horrendous, like horrendously long. And I love college baseball.
In terms, like it's a long game to just be sitting completely in the elements on crappy bleachers.
Minimal concessions. It's just everything is kind of jerry rigged, and it doesn't make any sense. You haven't gotten I mean, again, they're 15 years. You can't find someone to put their name on that complex that would, that's 3/4 of the people that enter Chaffetz have to walk by that facility. Right. Yeah. I don't, how in that time do you not, like, these are things like, we're not just coming here now because we ran out of things to complain about. These things have been here and could have been fixed, gradually throughout the years, and were just ignored. And I don't understand it. I mean, again, it's not an easy task to sell naming rights, but it's also not like, it's not a difficult thing. It's not something to at least explore and do or try. You don't have to sell. You don't have to ask for 5-10 million. You get $1 million for the naming rights, and you can put up 2 great press boxes and probably have a little left over.
Right.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. And I think the problem is going to be if Hendrickson leaves, really, it's either going to be an absolute kick in the ass to Chris May in the athletic department that we can't hire anybody with these facilities. Not anybody, that's going to continue what Hendrickson has built here.
No, you would think it's going to be somebody who's like young and maybe fits culturally, which I know is a big thing for May. But look, it's if they're good, they're only going to last for so long.
Yeah.
So,
it's crazy. I just don't understand it. To go a lot, like, again, the facilities thing, I just don't understand, because when they do good things, when they bring back a sport like field hockey to campus, they need to be like, why are you not shouting that from the rafters? There was an entire U News article where a field hockey player ripped you to shreds for how you treated them. And you don't try to flip that script and talk about, and, when you have the opportunity.
Right.
I don't know. I don't get it. Like, it's not even that they're spending extra money to market this. It's literally like, make a video, send the Neislers out there and update us on construction, for Christ's sake. I don't know, dude. It's the outgoing transfers are becoming a problem too. Will Bollinger is the most recent Billiken hit the portal on the 13th. So, Pete, I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting couple of days. My gut tells me that Hendo has to jump. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's I was less confident about that until I saw the assistant leave, and now I sort of wonder if that portends anything more serious. So I guess we'll find out.
The men's soccer released their schedule, and the schedule included a fun little take on the NFL trend of schedule videos.
Yeah, it was pretty cute. They had their soccer campers take a crack at who they thought the opponent was just based on the logo. And some of the kids seemed pretty thoughtful about it before giving a completely wrong answer.
Yeah, I thought I now is the point of these videos for them to just say wrong answers, or are they trying? Yeah.
So my read on these kids is that it was a mix. Like some of them were trying to be funny and they got included, and I think others gave it an honest crack, like there were a few where you could kind of see their train of thought, or like maybe they saw like for one, I think for the Missouri State Bears, he said it was the Oklahoma Bears. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, that like that's at least a similar color. Like he's kind of, you can see what he's doing. He's got the animal. He
Yeah.
gave it a try, and then other ones were just, I think, kind of being silly.
I thought I was really I was kind of disappointed at that they didn't know Indiana University.
Yes.
I kind of got I was expecting it, but it's such a fun little video. Go check it out if you haven't. It's on the
Yes.
men's soccer Twitter account. Like I said, their full schedule was released on June 11th. Pete, give us some fast facts on this schedule.
8 teams that qualified for last year's NCAA tournament, 10 teams that finished in the RPI top 50. So it's a gauntlet. At home, they'll have an exhibition against Evansville. They've got Indiana, like Zach just mentioned, IUPUI, Lipscomb, where we played last season.
Oh, that was a tough one. That
was a
game
tough
stunk.
It was. Loyola is coming in. Former conference rival Charlotte is going to be visiting, along with Duquesne, VCU, George Washington, and then we're going to have that Blackburn game again, which is normally a pretty interesting one.
On that video, I wanted to point out Charlotte on that video. I think that was my favorite guess.
Same.
Because it was so weird.
Yeah.
Because somehow he saw that pickaxe in the middle.
Yeah.
You could tell he knew the pickaxe in the middle, but he just got the town wrong.
He caught the use of negative space. Colorado Miners, I believe, was his
guess.
Is
that the smartest kid at the Billiken soccer camp?
That's a really, really good guess. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, they're going to be coming in, and then on the road, we're going to go to Omaha for an exhibition. SMU will be another road trip. Portland, LaSalle, Fordham, Rhode Island, Missouri State, and then Dayton will be the last road game of the year. We also have that neutral game, Zach, SIUE, which, as we said before, is the same date, Sunday, September 8th, that the women play SIUE. We think that's going to be that City Park doubleheader again, but that's probably not going to be officially confirmed for a couple more weeks, hopefully this month.
I will say they better do well, they really need to do a better job this time around
of advertising it.
Of all of it.
Yeah. Well, it was a Saturday last year. This year will be a Sunday. We'll see if it's as well attended. I know I probably won't be able to make it in on a Sunday.
That's bullshit, Pete.
Well, by that weekend, because it was also, I think, the weekend before. By the way, I think it was Labor Day weekend, and this is the next weekend, and this is the weekend that that my son's team normally starts their season. So I'll have my coaching responsibilities as well.
The Purple Dragons are starting up again. I don't know. That was my best guess for like a child's rec league soccer team.
But not even close.
We had the worst name when I was a kid. I don't even know if I want to put it out to the ether. It was so bad.
All right, we'll let it be a mystery.
Yep. I don't even know who came up with it. It was terrible. Let's see. Hey, this was exciting, and I still haven't kept my promise, but I haven't not kept my promise. Johnny Klein was called back up to the city roster, and he entered in the 76th minute on Saturday in the 2-0 loss to Dallas. My promise was to get his name on the back of my city jersey.
When he made it up.
Yeah, and he did last year. I just didn't have a chance to get it done.
Well, he was called up again, and kind of given what's happened to their roster in the past week, Zach, he might have a chance to stick around for a little bit because they are just riddled with injuries, and then they've had a couple players, traded, sold off, transferred. So it's there's a little bit of an opportunity for him right now.
Let's see. This is an interesting one because I don't know. My level of knowledge of US and international soccer, like the goings on of like player selection, all this kind of stuff is super surface level. Pete, so I'm going to let you kind of take away this news regarding St. Louis University as a base camp for the World Cup.
Yeah, so I think the idea here is, Zach, so St. Louis has been included as one of the first 24 locations available as a team base camp for the 2026 World Cup, with the specific site listed as St. Louis University, right? So they're going to be using our facilities should they choose St. Louis as their base camp. So the sites were published in a team base camp brochure that includes a list of locations where the 48, and remember it is 48 because they're expanding the tournament, participating teams may opt to establish their quote unquote home away from home, which is the hub where they will travel to and from their first 3 matches, and where players, staff, and officials will spend the majority of their time during the group stage. So the first edition of the team base camp brochure showcases 24 high-grade locations with the list of potential sites to grow over the next 18 months. And it's a big deal for SLU because you have a chance to, you know, I like how cool is it if you actually have a national team or two on SLU's campus training, right? And I don't know. It's just like there's the potential for like multiple international superstars to be kicking it around Herman Stadium for a
Wouldn't
few
be the
weeks.
first time.
But I mean, while they're actively
Oh,
playing
yeah,
for their
yeah.
national team, you know,
Oh,
like,
yeah, no.
like it'd be incredible. So I think, I don't know. I think this is a nice opportunity for SLU. It's kind of like, it's one of those things where you can argue about how important it actually is, but it's a net positive. And I think if you're a team who's playing in Kansas City, or some of the more central, you know, locations, I think Dallas and Houston, Atlanta, the other ones are all pretty coastal, but especially if you've got a game or two in Kansas City, St. Louis may make a lot of sense. I mean, they're going to be chartering to wherever they're going to go anyway, but yeah, pretty cool opportunity for SLU.
I can't believe how many freaking teams are going to be in this World Cup.
I don't necessarily love that
No.
aspect of it.
48. I can't even name 48 countries, my dude. But take a guess. Who picks St. Louis?
Well, I mean, given that it's 48, you're gonna have some more obscure ones in there, right? Like it's not just gonna be an extra 16 teams from Europe. You're gonna have more from every federation. So it's gonna be going down a little bit.
So are there 2 teams that'll take up each base?
I don't know because they're talking about they're gonna add more. So I don't know if it's going to be one or 2. You know what I mean? Like it could be. It sounds like it could be as few as 1 or as many as 2. But yeah, like right. If they just stick with these for right now, it would be like 2 per site, right?
Yeah. Who would you like to see?
Oh God, I mean, you want to see the best teams in the world.
That's
right?
true.
Like,
That's true.
I don't like. I don't.
Give me a guess then. Let's put 2 names out there each.
I mean, if Messi is still playing, then you want Argentina.
Correct.
Right? Like
I think he is
like
out of the. I don't know.
I don't know if he's going to play. I think he may be done with.
Yeah, I think he's done.
But yeah, no, I would probably pick a France then. Maybe.
I think Germany. I think
Germany's a good one. You can't go wrong with England. I like this generation of English players.
I'm trying to see if there's, you've got like a, like, I don't know. You talk about Serbia. There's, that kind of, I don't know what part of the world would that be called? Balkans. There's that Balkan.
Yeah, I was going to say if Bosnia qualifies, they would.
Croatian.
Too bad Vidad still isn't playing, but if Bosnia qualifies, given St. Louis's huge Bosnian population, that would be that's probably the one that would be like the most feel good story.
Croatia would be a kind of in that vein too as well. I know there are some St. Louis. There's a Croatian fans community too. Anyway. Yeah, really, really big deal for SLU. There was talk on Billikens.com how this was started in like 2017, this process? I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I was
Yeah,
very.
I don't
I'm
know.
again. I'm totally. I had no idea this was even a thing. It obviously makes a ton of sense, but I'd never considered that. Like, I probably knew it. I read Zlatan's book, and they talked about like a base camp, and I guess I just forgot that. Anyway.
Yeah, no, and there's there was a podcast about the disastrous 1998 World Cup campaign for the US and how they made their base camp in kind of rural wine country in France.
That's what yeah. Okay, I
So
remember that
they
too.
weren't necessarily by a host, like, so it was the same idea. Like they were off on their own away from the quote unquote distractions of the rest of the tournament. But yeah, it didn't really work out for them.
Well, hopefully, wherever the United States selects their base camp, my guess is Kansas City. But yeah. Anyway, wherever hopefully it's the right decision this time around.
Yeah.
Pete, I think that's it for us. A long episode, longer than
Yeah.
I think either of us expected to go today.
For sure.
Big thanks again to Jack Godar for joining us. A lot of fun catching up with him. It's been fun getting to know him for the last number of years, both in person at SLU games and then through his Twitter feed and our Twitter feed. So again, thanks, Jack, for joining. Pete, go Bills.
Go Bills.